Alright, we are back for yet another week of Fantasy Football in 5. Last week was our week
13.
13 recap. This week is going to be our playoffs week 1 recap, and it's a little bit of a special edition. This is our Christmas edition.
If you haven't seen last week's video, hit the big red button below. Alright, so our stud list this week begins with Cam Newton, who I think should be the MVP. Isaiah Crowell, Todd Gurley, Doug Baldwin, and Russell Wilson.
There was also Eli Manning, Odell Beckham, Ted Ginn Jr., and Eddie Lacy.
Now, Ted Ginn had a really good week, although he didn't do a whole lot. 2 catches, that's it. But he had 120 receiving yards and 2 scores for the Panthers in a blowout victory over the Falcons, and they improved to 13-0.
Now, Doug Baldwin had another solid week in fantasy. He had 3 touchdowns, even though he only had like 60 yards receiving. He put up, I think, 20-some points, and was another solid week from him. Alright, a few duds in fantasy this week include names like Des Bryant, Jeremy Hill, Big Ben, Devontae Freeman, and Travis Kelce.
You can also add Phillip Rivers, Calvin Johnson, Brandon Cooks, Tyler Eifert, and Buck Allen.
Now, Calvin Johnson, he did not have a very good week, even though he played a sort of depleted Rams team. They haven't been playing that well as of late, but he only had like 20 yards receiving and didn't have a score, so it was pretty pathetic.
Speaking of pathetic, you can add Des Bryant to that list because he only had 9 receiving yards. Okay, who did he play?
The Cowboys played the Packers, and they shut him down.
That's right. But yeah, he had 9 yards and just a terrible week, so you need to bench him now. Alright, so our injury list this week begins with 2 more players that are out for the season. Go figure. Thomas Rawls and LeGarrette Blount. These guys are questionable. Charles Clay, Jonathan Stewart, Tyler Eifert, and Brian Hoyer.
Jonathan Stewart injured. What a shock there. Nothing new. Now, a few more people who are questionable. There's Spencer Ware, Vincent Jackson, and Deshaun Jackson. Now, Andrew Luck, he is out and may not return for the rest of the season, so keep an eye out there. There's also Brian Hartline and Carlos Williams who are out. Andy Dalton is also out. He fractured his thumb, and he could return for the playoffs, but he's going week to week right now. Alright, some NFL news this week. The Browns placed defensive back Joe Hayden on IR. He's probably the best player on that team, and so it's a huge blow for them. The Packers defensive end Mike Daniels signs a 4-year extension with the Packers, and he is going to strengthen their line for years to come. The Seahawks add running back Bryce Brown to the roster and sign Christine Michael, so look for those guys to possibly start. Patriots signed running back Monty Ball since LeGarrette Blount got hurt, so he may see some action coming the next couple of weeks, so keep your eye out for the Seahawks and the Patriots.
Also, breaking news, the NFL just passed a sort of law, I guess, that allows all the refs to go straight to the league office or whatever and come together and discuss penalties during the playoffs. So that's good news because the officiating has been terrible this season.
It has.
Alright, so some people you should consider picking up if you're still in the playoffs is whoever the starting running back in Seattle will be. Doug Baldwin, Marcus Whedon, and Blake Bortles.
There's also Alex Smith, James White, and Tim Hightower.
James White, he's currently the starting running back now that Blunt and Lewis have been lost for the season. So look for him to get a bigger workload, especially in the pass game.
Now, I think you should consider picking up whoever the running back in Seattle is, because if you look between Thomas Rawls and Marshawn Lynch, they both have played really well in that system, so I think that most running backs will succeed there, so just watch out for anyone who is starting there.
Here are some people you should drop, too, or bench. Des Bryant, Phillip Rivers, Roddy White, and Scott Chandler.
There's also Emmanuel Sanders, Latavius Murray, and Jordan Matthews. Now, Latavius Murray, he is on a Raiders team that started out really hot, but has fizzled out towards the end of the season here. And look for him to start having depleted numbers simply because they're going to be trying to pass the ball and come back a lot more often.
Phillip Rivers, San Diego's quarterback, they're having a terrible season this year. He hasn't really gotten any help because of a lot of injuries, and his offensive line is kind of a makeshift line right now. So consider dropping him or benching him if you have him. because he's really been struggling lately, and I think he will continue to struggle for the rest of the season. Alright, this was Fantasy Football in 5, and thank you for watching. We've lived real life fantasy in 5 bench less because who would want to watch a 30-minute video on this topic?
Amen.
This is our playoff week 1 recap. Next week will be our playoff week 2 recap, so stay tuned for that, and don't forget to subscribe.
Our fantasy team, we lost in the first round of the playoffs this week to the #1 team, which was very sad because we would have beaten every other team in our league, but we just had a bad luck. So wish us luck next year, and see you next week.